International Development and the North-South Institute in Canada. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, Professor Mutebile was a Rotarian of the Rotary Club of Kampala, one of the first Rotary clubs in Uganda, where he maintained membership for 39 years. He made donations to all major Rotary activities in Uganda and contributed generously to the Rotary Foundation of Rotary International to support humanitarian services. Right Honorable Speaker, Professor Mutebile lived out his full potential as a versatile economist, a nationalist, and a Pan-Africanist. The monetary and fiscal reforms he championed restored Uganda's economic standing and international rating, hence attracting investment, creating jobs, improving household incomes in Uganda. Right Honorable Speaker, we extend our sincere sympathies and condolences to the family, Bank of Uganda, and the country at large. Right Honorable Speaker, may his soul rest in eternal peace.
Thank you, Leader of Government Business. Can I now have the seconder, Leader of Opposition?
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I'd like to join the Right Honorable Prime Minister and honorable colleagues this morning in paying tribute to now the late Emmanuel Mutebile, who was governor of the Bank of Uganda. On behalf of the team I lead, Right Honorable Speaker, on your left, I'd like to extend our sincere sympathies to the bereaved family, staff, and management of Bank of Uganda, the people of Kabale, and the country at large for the loss of one of the economic pillars of our time. The passing of Dr. Mutebile, Right Honorable Speaker, on the morning of 23rd January, marked the end of an era of someone in that generation that participated in a nation and institutional building processes from a time when over 80% of Ugandans today were not yet born, Right Honorable Speaker. That distinction falls on a select few who get that one rare once opportunity to help set up institutions during and after the birth of a nation. Professor Mutebile was a very fortunate man. He was the right man with the right credentials who rose on account of his competence and helped cushion our economy from a state of near collapse in the early 1980s to a one where our people can only try to survive on the basics of life, Right Honorable Speaker. But good fortune alone does not fully explain everything, Right Honorable Speaker. Professor Mutebile was one of a kind. He was a leader, a mentor, and a very straightforward man from Kabale, who went on to make history as the founding father of neoliberal economic practices in Uganda's contemporary history. I asked him to hear, Right Honorable Speaker, that he was an apologetic high priest of structured adjustment programs. That is what part of the go down history as his hallmark. Right Honorable Speaker, Professor Mutebile believed and preached at every opportunity the ability of free enterprise to creating jobs, enhancing incomes and wealth for nations. He believed that macroeconomic stability or low inflation, high GDP growth, and better terms of trade with trading partners abroad would drive our society to prosperity. After more than 40 years of active service, guiding economic policy and management in Uganda, the late professor bows out at a time when Ugandans are still waiting to see the economic miracle often propped up by the NRM leadership, including at yesterday's gathering at Kolo Grounds, Honorable Speaker. He leaves Uganda in the uncomfortable company of so many countries that have talked about middle income status for so many years, but failed to attain it. Our other neighbors, right, Honorable Speaker, without mentioning names, grew their economies faster and sustainably to attain middle income status years ago. This decorrected economy, right, Honorable Speaker, has passed on and left behind leaders who are setting the Polish development model as the miracle economic transformational tool that will uplift our poor citizens from poverty to prosperity. It has left us in a country where the promised economic miracle to transform Uganda will be powered by unreliable power supply, unaffordable electricity, as well as unaffordable credit from banks and other financial institutions, right, Honorable Speaker. He leaves Uganda as the fixed worst performer in terms of revenue collection when measured by revenue as a percentage of GDP. This is well documented, right, Honorable Speaker. This grandson of Uganda, an authority in economic management, is leaving Uganda choking on the public debt, with interest payment on the public debt for the financial year 2023 programmed at about 5.88 trillion, of which 4.059 trillion is interest payment, right, Honorable Speaker. That professor, right, Honorable Speaker, was an honest man who didn't fear talking straight, what sometimes made powers that be so uncomfortable. And allow me to single out 3 incidents, right, Honorable Speaker. I recall when in 2011, the governor, Bank of Uganda, disagreed with the president over the decision to spend $740 million on 6 fighter jets. At the time, right, Honorable Speaker, this payment led to a rundown of the stock of our foreign reserves from 6 to 4 months of import cover. The Ministry of Defense, under the President's directive, and the chief eye of the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, in a single transaction withdrew $400 million. That was the first payment overnight from Bank of Uganda to pay for the fighter jets without parliamentary approval. Since that time, right, Honorable Speaker, the competitiveness of our shilling has never regained, as the import cover has never risen to 5 months. The governor informed this parliament how he reluctantly accepted to release hundreds of millions of dollars after assurances and an informal agreement with the finance minister and the president that in about 2 years, proceeds from oil revenue would be used to repay the Bank of Uganda loan. But, Honorable Speaker, that to new members of parliament explains the history of what we now consider recapitalization of Bank of Uganda that this parliament has been making since financial year 2017-18. The second incident, right, Honorable Speaker, Professor Mutebile, without fear, attributed the inflation and exchange rate depreciation 2011 to the election cash bonanza, in which the NRM and its leadership literally broke into the central bank in order to buy votes. After Kasita, the traders and other stakeholders went on strike, that the traders were protesting against escalating dollar price. The governor did admit that this money was used for electioneering and plunged the economy into chaos. He then promised that next time government attempts to raid the central bank during election campaign will not be allowed. We'll have to explain whether that what didn't happen. The third and last incident, Right Honorable Speaker, in which is when the governor stood his ground and resisted a plan by the executive to award an exclusive contract to print Uganda currency to Veridos Identity Solutions, a company without any history of currency printing. The governor resisted the president and the minister responsible for finance, as well as the Attorney General, on a deal that would like to have created risk of public lack of faith in our currency as a store of value. We now pay tribute to a man who stood his ground and served according to what he judged right, not what was being imposed on him. Unfortunately, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, he has left us when more than half of Ugandan households, about 57%, are still in a non-monetary economy. Right Honorable Speaker, if I take leave of this eulogy, may I take this opportunity to address this august House on three important policy issues that we must not run away from as Parliament. One, our senior citizens who have served this country with distinction and honor deserve to retire honorably and enjoy many more years of their lives in retirement. This House owes our citizens a law that bars men and women who have reached retirement age from continued stress of public service, Right Honorable Speaker. And I believe members will agree with me that we need to reconsider particular provisions that will plunge people that need to retire into continued stress. Probably the professor would have lived more days if he had been allowed to retire because he had played his part with honor. Two, the practice of seeking specialized treatment in neighboring countries is very unfair to millions of our citizens who have entrusted us, Right Honorable Speaker, with the privilege of sitting here to fix the broken health sector. Out-of-pocket financing is a big burden to most of our households who seek for specialty treatment. Health insurance, which our neighboring countries adopted years ago, is the only alternative that can support our underfunded healthcare system. Right Honorable Speaker, my team intends to take leadership on the healthcare insurance bill, which government has failed to reintroduce to this House, Right Honorable Speaker. Probably after we have made rest this grandson of Uganda, we should return and demand for an explanation as to what became of the Roboa Specialist Hospital. So that citizens should stop spending money abroad when we have spent taxpayers' money on non-existing healthcare projects, like the Roboa project, which is now Bosch project, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, may the soul of that governor rest in eternal peace. I beg to submit.
Thank you, Leader of Opposition. At least it's an agreed fact that we had a best economist, a very honest man, very intelligent, very transparent, with integrity, and that is Professor Mutebile. And I'm happy that even opposition is agreeing with that. And I want to thank Bank of Uganda really for treating Professor Mutebile. You put all to have Professor Mutebile live for some of these years. Independent.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. And I want to thank you in a special way for giving us who came to this august House on individual tickets termed as independents a slot to eulogize one of the greatest sons of Uganda. I will not be speaking on behalf of the independents since each of them is independent of the other, but I have taken the honor to represent them under the brief.
Honorable, you have only 2 minutes.
Okay, most obliged, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I first had an interaction with the deceased professor sometime in 2002 or thereabout, when we had a delegation to perform a cultural marriage function in Soroti for the family of Honorable Shemu Bagaine and the family of the late Honorable Ejaru. And we had a wonderful, nice evening. And that's when I came to know the social part of Professor Mutebile. Because in the company we had the late Justice Amos Twinomujuni and the late Manzi Tumugine. I will not narrate what happened that evening, but we had a good time. And that's when I came to know the social part of the late Professor Mutebile. For us who come from Kigezi, we always had the political rivalries and wrangles. But whenever we had such wrangles, it was only Professor Mutebile to call us to order and reconcile the warring parties. And he would do that at the instance of Mama Teresa Mbire. Now his demise leaves a vacuum as to who will be intervening and reconciling the warring parties in Kigezi, which we normally do. The region had a lot of respect for Professor Mutebile, and he contributed a lot in education, not only as a lecturer, but when the sons and daughters of Kigezi established a non-profit making university called Recovery University, using his position as a governor and under the corporate social responsibility of Bank of Uganda, that university was financially supported to keep afloat and offer education to the students across the region until government took it over. And we do applaud and cherish him for that. Professor Mutebile was non-sectarian. Practically all religions in the region, be it Islam, Catholic, Anglican, Pentecostal, benefited from his magnanimity one way or the other. He was a brutally honest Muchiga. When some of us are treated as rebels because we speak our minds, that is what a typical Muchiga should be. And he would take positions at times against his own because of that honesty in him. I remember when he decided to close National Bank of Commerce, which formerly was Kigezi Bank of Commerce, that was begun by his friends, the Rugundas, the Vamangas, the Surumas. Definitely he ought to have been one of them, but he decided to close it because it did not meet the requirements of Bank of Uganda. That is the professor we are talking about. Was a lion of Kigezi. We will miss him. We pray the Almighty God to rest his soul in eternal peace.
Thank you so much, Honorable Winfred. Honorable Commissioner.
Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, I first want to take this opportunity to thank the Prime Minister for the good motion that he has moved and the leader of opposition for the secondment of the motion. Right Honorable Speaker, I stand to move an amendment to the motion that has been moved by the Right Honorable Speaker.
Moved by the Right Honorable Prime Minister.
By the Right Honorable Prime Minister, I beg your pardon. Right Honorable Speaker, I move under Rule 58, and I beg to move that an amendment be moved that we add to the motion a prayer that government or Bank of Uganda gets an appropriate property for the family of the late Emmanuel Mutebile. This property or home should be for the family led by the widow. Right Honorable Speaker, it is no knowledge that the late professor was a very honest man. And by the fact that he was governor, Bank of Uganda, for a very long time. As we talk today, the family may not have where to go. But these days, Right Honorable Speaker, if people are in such positions, they amass a lot of wealth, which this late gentleman did not do. I think, Right Honorable Speaker, it would only be good if this parliament supports that we get a home, a befitting home for the family of the late Right Honorable Speaker, because he served Uganda and Bank of Uganda diligently without any sense of corruption. Right
Members,
Honorable
order in the
Speaker,
House. Order in the
and
House.
it is appropriate that we award such Ugandans who have served with dignity a befitting send-off and then a full settlement of the family. I beg to move, Right Honorable Speaker, an amendment to the motion of the Right Honorable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Silwanyi. Is the amendment seconded?
No.
Members,
No.
members, I happened to go for a vigil yesterday. I'm not debating, but I'm giving you information. I happened to go for a vigil yesterday at Professor's home, which is the Bank of Uganda house, and what the widow talked. And whatever you're doing here, people are looking at you, how insensitive you can mean to be. What the widow talked, all of us know Mutebile was corrupt-free. And the widow said, when Professor was about when the contract was ending, he asked the husband, where are we going? And he said, God will provide. And now you're becoming the gods to provide. Is the motion, is the amendment seconded?
No.
Tinker.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Honorable members, I raise to support the motion, which was moved by Honorable Silwanyi, our Commissioner for Parliament. Right Honorable Speaker, the reason I raised to support the motion is that before Professor died, in June, I had the privilege to visit where he was staying in Kororo. Personally, I knew because I had gone to see him. I knew that was his home. When I asked those who were processing my appointment to see him, they said, this is the official residence of the governor of Bank of Uganda. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, when such information comes out, to amend that such a distinguished servant of this country, whereas he's living to live with his heavenly creator, he leaves behind a trail of dependents whom the country should never forget. And this amendment directly provides for the trail this distinguished Ugandan is leaving behind. It is the reason I support the motion.
Thank you. Thank you. Can we hear from Leader of Government Business?
Right Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, I have taken note.
Speaker, may the Prime Minister sanitize the microphone.
I like the way that man.
He admires you a lot.
Thank you so much. Honorable Speaker and colleagues, I have taken note of the concerns of members. And all of us know that when you leave this world, sometimes you may have some gaps here and there. So I request members that you allow me to go and inform government and consult widely. We shall come back and inform you the action that we shall have taken.
Thank you, members. Members, the motion stands amended with a clause from Honorable Sirwani. Thank you so much. Honorable Bariomusi.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker and the honorable members. I stand to support the motion which has been proposed by the Right Honorable Prime Minister. And I received a call from the Honorable Jim Wes, who said I should record his apologies because he lost his sister, but he will be joining the family in Kabale. Right Honorable Speaker, I have been chairing the government committee that has been coordinating the funeral arrangements, and I would like to extend gratitude to members of the committee and the Ugandans for the overwhelming support that they have given to the family, and also the condolence messages that have continued to flow from within and outside the country in honor of Professor Prof.Mutebile. And I therefore also want to extend my condolences to the family, the widow who is here, the siblings, and the Mutebile family, the friends, some of whom are here in the gallery, Bank of Uganda, the bankers, the Rotarians, the people of Chigezi and Ugandans. And the impact of Professor Mutebile went beyond the boundaries of Uganda. So we have lost a very gallant son of this country, but also of this world. And I want to thank government for according an official burial to Professor Mutebile. We would like to request that in the tradition of the Wachiga, we usually separate a funeral arrangement from politics. And I beg that we do not vulgarize the funeral arrangements of Professor Mutebile with mixing it with our partisan politics. We can have time in this house to debate the economy, to debate how Uganda is moving, separate from a funeral arrangement where we pay tribute to our foreign hero, Professor Mutebile. Allow me the short time, Madam Speaker, talk about Professor Emmanuel Mutebile. Mutebile as a professional economist. All of us agree that he was an icon, he was a professional, he was a pillar in building the economy of this country. And I can hasten to add that Uganda's economy is one of the fastest growing economies. It is ranked the 11th if you check the records which are available. And therefore, we thank him for the great contribution that he made in advising the government to build a sound economy. I speak about Professor Mutebile, the honest man, as other members have made reference. He was a person who gave his professional advice without fear or favor. Last night, Ndugu Ruakana Rugunda told us how, at the beginning of the NRM government, when we were venturing into barter trade and other economies, he stood his ground as the chief economist of government to tell cabinet, even when cabinet chaired by the president had a different view, he disagreed with the cabinet and told the cabinet how the economy should be moved. And based on his sound advice, the achievements which we have registered are, to an extent, also related to the advice that he gave. And that's how the Bachiga, that's how we behave. Brutal honesty. Yes, even myself. Sometimes the honesty of the Bachiga is misunderstood to be arrogance. You heard that when he was the guild president of Makerere University, he disagreed with the government then, and he had to flee the country. Yet people who are not brutally honest probably would have just been subdued and try to follow what Amin was doing. This reminds me of a Muchiga man who was going to the market to sell his dog. And the prospective buyer met him and said, "Does this dog bark? Is it a very strong dog?" And the Muchiga said, "No, it's a useless dog, that's why I'm selling it." To the risk of undermining the market of the dog. That's how honest the Bachiga are. And I am sure members of parliament recall whenever Professor Mutebile would come to the committees in the house here, he would give his brutal professional comments and opinions, even when we disagreed with them, but eventually would realize he's an economist who is giving his sound advice. And therefore, we thank him for that. I speak about Professor Mutebile, a man of integrity. Professor Mutebile was not a slave of material wealth and worldly riches. And that's why the commissioner was making an amendment that he did not amass wealth, even when he signed on the legal tender, even when he presided over Bank of Uganda, he did not have greed. In a situation where for some people, greed has become their creed. And therefore we thank him for the integrity that he exhibited as a governor, Bank of Uganda. I speak about Mutebile as a family man, a man who his wife told us that despite the busy schedules he had as a governor, he would find time to always have lunch and dinner with the family. He would find time to make sure that he's with the family in prayer at home. The deputy governor, Bank of Uganda, told us every Sunday they would meet at his house to talk about bank matters, but also to pray to God for the strength of Bank of Uganda. I speak about Mutebile as a man of God, a man who loved God, a man who went to church. We got information from all saints that sometimes he would conduct the choir in the All Saints Church here in Nakasero. You can imagine a governor, Bank of Uganda, would think he has no time for church, but that was Professor Mutebile. I speak about Mutebile, the generous man, As the people who hail from Chigezi, we know he was a greatly generous person who contributed to many community causes without any sectarian tendencies. He supported all churches and prayer and faith institutions without discrimination. He supported many causes as a Rotarian. He supported community interventions. We have an association that brings together Banyachigezi, the international community of Banyachigezi, the Banyachigezi from Chigezi and in the diaspora. And he was our patron, and we greatly appreciate the contributions that he gave. I could go on and go on, but time is not on our side. Lastly, Madam Speaker, I request you, as a person who has been chairing the organization, the arrangements for the funeral arrangement, to brief Parliament about the remaining days, how we are going to handle the burial and the funeral arrangements. With your permission, Madam Speaker, let me update Parliament that his body arrived on Tuesday evening, and as we have already known, the government offered and accorded Professor Mutebile an official burial. Last night we had a vigil at his residence in Kororo, and now we are paying tribute in Parliament. Tomorrow there will be the funeral service in Kororo ceremonial grounds, but it will be a scientific service where mourners will be up to 300 people, and we request that the majority of the public can follow the proceedings through virtual platforms, i.e. televisions, radio, and the other IT platforms. We shall be live streaming the proceedings in Kororo. And all those who will be accessing the grounds have to undergo a COVID test. And his body shall be flown to Kabale on Saturday, and we shall have a vigil at his residence in Kabale municipality in the evening, and then burial will be on Sunday. We shall start with the church service in Rugarama at midday, Rugarama Cathedral, and thereafter he will be laid to rest in at his home in Chijuguta village, Kabale municipality. Thank you very much for allowing me to give an update with respect to funeral arrangements, and we welcome you to Kabale for those who will manage to travel to Kabale so that we can give a decent send-off to the distinguished son of Uganda, whom we respect a lot. I thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, and thank the honorable members. Condolence books have been opened at Parliament here for members of the public to come and sign, but also at the Bank of Uganda, as well as Professor Mutebile's residence in Kororo. So there are 3 places where the condolence book has been opened, and members of the public can freely go to his residence, Bank of Uganda, and here at the Parliament of Uganda. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Can we have Honorable Bahati? Then we have a brother. We have a brother to members. We are paying tribute. I have a session at 2. Wait for 2 to have your procedure, order, and whatever. Is it a procedure on a day? Let him finish, then you bring it. We have a brother to the late Professor Emmanuel, in the names of Honorable Jim Akena, who will speak next after you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and honorable colleagues. I rise to support the motion to pay tribute to our elder brother and great economist, Professor Emmanuel Mutebile. But Madam Speaker, I want first of all to thank you for accepting to have this sitting to pay tribute to our elder brother and the members for coming in big numbers to pay tribute to this patriot and great economist. Colleagues, Professor Mutebile now belongs to the ages, but we will remember him in so many ways. We shall miss him as a hardworking and disciplined public servant who made a mark on the economic development of our country. His firmness and truthfulness, especially in situations that require difficult decisions, helped our country take firm and solid reforms that have seen our country grow economically and also maintain stable inflation in single digits for the last 30 years. Our economy, because of the reforms him and his colleagues initiated, has seen our country expand from over 3 billion in the 90s, now to 44 billion US dollars. Mutebile was very firm and truthful, and he was never ashamed to say what he believed in or abandon his friends. We know now for sure, despite his political ideology, he was a very good friend of the Obote family, and he remained friendly to them until his death. Professor Mutebile will be remembered as a man with a big heart, and his generosity touched many lives. Madam Speaker and colleagues, I want to say that Professor Mutebile initiated at the Bank of Uganda a project to support maternal health that has seen built health centers in Iguru, Arua, Mbarara, Rubanda, Jinja, Masaka, and Kabale. Colleagues, on Saturday, as Honorable Chris has said, the military helicopter will take off from Korolo airstrip to airlift the body of Professor Mutebile. And after 1 hour, it will land at Kabale Golf Course. This will mark his last trip home. But the economic journey he started will not have ended. And we who are still alive can keep his legacy by ensuring that we maintain inflation in a single digit through fiscal discipline, pass budgets that support production, not consumption, because consumption increases inflation. Bring the interest rates down. One time asked Professor Mutebile, and we had this debate over time, why he was not bringing the interest rates down as at the rate that we hoped him to do it. And he said, you know, I have one tool that I use. That's the bank, the central bank, the credit rate. And the second one is within your court to make sure that you have a fiscal discipline. And this domestic borrowing you continue going into will continue to cause you problems. That's what he told me. But also let us support and continue to support the policies that support free enterprise. Madam Speaker, sometimes we hear voices that want again government to intervene and nationalize. Mutebile believed in an open market economy where forces of supply and demand determine market prices. And that's what we should continue to support. Madam Speaker, last I want to thank Aunt Betty, the wife of Professor Mutebile. She has lived up to the vows she took when she married Professor Mutebile. In sickness and in words, you have stood by Professor Mutebile, and we are very grateful. I also want to thank His Excellency the President for remaining loyal to Professor Mutebile, the governor. Even when some voices were saying, you know, at his age and his situation, can't we? But President Yoweri Museveni continued to renew his contracts until he died, because he knew that the wisdom in Mutebile was still needed in this country. Despite being a great economist, as I wind up, Mutebile also had another side, and especially later in his life, he became spiritual. And he used to sing. You can't imagine and believe. He was a good singer. And every time anybody who has visited his home, every time they say the prayer as a family, he would sing. And he had this particular song he liked, which is drawn from the Bible, Revelations chapter 7, verse 12, which I would want to read, not to sing, because I cannot imitate the deep voice of Professor Mutebile. And it says, Amen, blessings and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving and honor and power and strength belong to our God forever and ever. Amen. Professor Mutebile, to all that you have done and contributed to this country, to your family, the glory belongs to God. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Members, we will have 2 minutes each.
Procedure, Madam Speaker.
2 minutes. Yes, Commissioner. I will first have Honorable Kenna, then Musansizi. Yes, your procedure matter.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I stand on the procedural issue, and I wish for your guidance, Right Honorable Speaker. The Right Honorable Prime Minister came with a motion which we all supported by the House, including myself, Right Honorable Speaker. And my colleague, my fellow commissioner, came up with an amendment on that same motion. When the Right Honorable Prime Minister stood up, she never mentioned about whether she's in support of that amendment or not. And also the whole House, Right Honorable Speaker, never supported that motion. And as myself, I do not support the motion because I believe just the money that was used for his burial can be enough to build for him a house. Right Honorable Speaker, let the House support this motion so that it is put on record. I stand to be guided, Right Honorable Speaker. I thank you.
My Commissioner, thank you for your concern. The motion was brought. If you want it to be put to vote, we'll do it. We'll do it. Mindful of the financial implications it has, but we are saying government and Bank of Uganda must take responsibility to ensure the family has a place of abode. It is an amendment.
Yes, amendment. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you very much for permitting me. I think we are moving in one direction. And my view is that our concern, first of all, is to recognize the contribution of Professor Mutebile to the country. And this is not the first time we are recognizing contributions. And I also want to thank you for the guidance where you're taking us, that we do this in accordance with the law. Will you permit me, therefore, to move an amendment, a slight amendment, and to the effect that the government follows up as undertaken by the Right Honorable Prime Minister in today's proceedings to ensure that the welfare of the family of Professor Mutebile, whose contribution to the country is recognized by all across the board, and that the Prime Minister does report to the House in subsequent sittings the steps undertaken by government. I so move.
Thank you, thank you. I now put a question that those in favor of the amendment that has been put in place say aye, and those in against, those in the contrary say no. The ayes have it. Honorable Akena. Honorable Akena Jimmy.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I am honored and privileged to be in a position to give a tribute to my elder brother on the floor of Parliament. Professor Mutebile became part of our household as a student leader. In those days, my late father admired and tried to groom leaders from wherever they emerged. And Mutebile, as a strong student leader, became part and parcel of the household. As somebody who became close, I have special admiration in that throughout the changing fortunes of time, even when we became political lepers, Mutebile stood firm and recognized that he had a connection and was always available. It is unfortunate my late father cannot be here to speak to this. My mother is in pain that one of her dear sons has passed because Professor Mutebile was always available to her and to help her in through difficult positions. On a point which my brother, Dr. Chris, raised on him being firm and truthful, I want to extend it further. And in this occasion, I want us to be honest with ourselves. Professor Mutebile was in the Ministry of Finance under the second UPC government. Within that government, there was a crafting of a way to recovery and was termed as a revised recovery program. There was some bush economics which came with barter trade and other things which did not work, honestly did not work. And it came to a point where reality had to come to the forefront. Unfortunately for Uganda, we had somebody who could speak to that truth honestly and clearly as economists. At that stage, the NRM government adopted what was called the Rehabilitation and Development Plan, which is word for word, comma for comma, the revised recovery program of the UPC. But unfortunately, politics clouds issues. That our statistics almost stopped 30 years, 36 years, but the recovery of Uganda and the contribution of Ugandan citizens must be recognized across board. I hope we have honest and people of great integrity who will serve this country irrespective of the regime and can be recognized across regimes. One such person is my elder brother. And it's indisputable. His truth always came through. The economics does not lie. It is clear. It is absolute reality. And I hope as Ugandans, we can emulate my fallen brother and serve our country dearly. Be able to contribute, that our contribution will last for posterity. So it's with a heavy heart that I can stand here and also with gratefulness to say, thank you, Professor Mutebile. May your soul rest in eternal peace.
Thank you, Henry.
Thank you.
Kindly 2 minutes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I rise to support the motion to pay tribute to the late Professor Mutebile. Right Honorable Speaker, I first came into close contact with the late Professor Mutebile in 2003 when I was the chairperson of Makerere University Senior Old Boys Association. I I got to him to ask for help for the association, and the late is the first person to give me a check of 300,000 to support the association. He did not stop there. He continued to follow up our activities as the association, and also he was very central in supporting his old school, Chigezi College Mutebile, where he was awarded an award as a golden old boy. In Parliament, when I came, I went to the Finance Committee, where I became the chairperson for 5 years. The late Mutebile would invite him for meetings. He would be there at 10 sharp, ready to respond to all the issues that we would raise as a committee on finance. The late Mutebile was a very generous man to all Ugandans, but particularly to the people of Chigezi. He contributed immensely to a number of projects, and the recent one was the support to one of the health centers in my constituency on maternal health. I will forever remember him for that contribution. I will forever remember him for the contribution for Kabale University, and I will forever remember him for inspiring me to be what I am today. May his soul rest in eternal peace.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Baiga, then the woman MP. Hey. Dr. Kamara.
Thank you.
I'm coming.
Right Honorable Speaker. I stand to support the motion to pay tribute to the late Professor Emmanuel Mutebile, a distinguished economist, an embodiment of Uganda's fiscal and economic policies that enabled Uganda sustained growth. On behalf of my family and my own behalf and the people of Kabale municipality, where this great icon hailed, I pay tribute to him as the real lion of Kigezi. He will be remembered for steering and revamping the economy of our country through a strong tide. Professor Mutebile was a distinguished, proud old boy of Kigezi College Mutebile, where I also studied, a true Musinia. This is a traditional and government-aided school where he studied in the 1960s. Owing to entirely his intellectual prowess, he was able to attain the best education that propelled him to the top of the professional we knew and admired. Kigezi College Mutebile is now struggling an appalling predicament shared by most government schools in the country. I dare say that if Professor Mutebile were born today, he wouldn't have made the strides in the current system.
Thanks be to you, peace.
The passing of this exceptional man,
Woman MP,
Thank you.
Catherine. Two minutes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I'm Catherine Ndamira, woman MP Kabale District, and Professor Emmanuel Mutebile has been my voter. Allow me to join the world to celebrate his life on earth. Right Honorable Speaker, the people of Kabale has lost a pillar. Professor Emmanuel has been a depiction of a real Muchiga, an inspiration to many. He issued a number of wise statements that whoever listened to and followed will never go wrong. Professor has been a corruption-free man. His corruption levels were at 0%, if not negative. And to me, I think the government should always employ such people in sensitive offices if we are to have a corruption-free country. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, Professor Emmanuel will forever be remembered for his great contribution and selfless service toward the growth and development of Kigezi sub-region and Uganda as a whole. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to testify there is a time where Professor Mutebile had queries in the committee. I saw the man coming. He was supported by people I thought he would fail, but to
Honorable Samo, I can conclude a sentence for you that your surprise was able to answer what was being asked. And secondly, when he was asked, he said, I am in this seat until God takes me. And indeed it has happened. Honorable Samo, Honorable Buturo, you will all speak. So long as it is, we have 20 minutes to go.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you for allowing me to come and move a tribute to this great son of Uganda. I want first of all to condole with the family, especially Mama Betty. Thank you for loving and caring for the professor. Right, Honorable Speaker, I had an opportunity to work with Professor Mutebile when he was the Chancellor of the International University of East Africa, where I was the chairperson of the University Council, 2014 to 2017. I found him a man of humility, despite his status, a man of integrity, a man who was straightforward. He was a great mentor. He would always guide us on how to move with the university, how to tell us, please, make sure that you give students courses that are marketable. I do not want students who get back. No wonder the university became a university of science and technology. Right, Honorable Speaker, many people have said here that Professor was a good timekeeper. Indeed, when he invited you to the bank for a meeting, indeed you had to be there. When he invited you to his home, you already get him seated. It's up to you to become guilty. Right, Honorable Speaker, Professor Mutebile was a man of open heart. No wonder we are here giving a motion to support him. Anybody who approached him would always come to them. Right, Honorable Speaker, there was a dream of the professor. One day he told us, when I retire, I want to go back to Lake Munyonyi. I want to bring in new animals, certain species of animals we describe, so that when I sit in Munyonyi, Lake Munyonyi, I will be looking at these animals and admiring them and enjoying my life. We all know that Professor Mutebile was a very social man. He was a man who was kind and a man who was very approachable. At first time I met him, I thought, how do I deal with a chancellor who is the governor of Bank of Uganda? But Madam Speaker, I found him very easy to work with, a man who would be able to guide you, a man who would smile and always be there. And I want to thank Betty again. Thank you. You used to escort him, but this is the way to go. Fare thee well, Professor Mutebile, until we meet again. Rest in peace, my brother.
Thank you. Mr. Buturo, then Honorable Tom.
Madam Speaker, I rise to support the motion that has been moved by the Right Honorable Prime Minister. Madam Speaker, at the beginning of this month, Kisoro District lost one of its distinguished sons. I'm drawing members to this fact, Madam Speaker, because I do see tremendous similarities between that man, Reverend Canon Muchiza, and Professor. I'm sorry, Madam Speaker. I was saying, Madam Speaker, that just at the beginning of this month, the district of Kisoro lost Reverend Muchiza, a man that has, I found, had similarities with Professor Mutebile. Now, Madam Speaker, it's about Professor Mutebile now, and I want to say that the country has been robbed of one of the finest brains we can talk about. It's not very often, Madam Speaker, that there will be tremendous levels of appreciation to many of us when our time to go has come. Professor Mutebile, and I believe, Madam Speaker, that many of us will wish that when that day comes, we will be spoken of in glorious terms the way we are seeing with Professor Mutebile. There is one matter, Madam Speaker, that not many speakers have brought to the attention of members. And that is that Professor Mutebile was a man who passionately believed that this nation's future depends on the extent to which Ugandans are able to accept and respect that ethics and integrity are the foundation of everything that we do. He was a man immensely convinced that without ethics and morality informing this nation's activities, our chances of being a stable nation, a prosperous nation, a peaceful nation, a unified nation are going to be zero. In other words, Madam Speaker, this is a man who clearly identified a central issue that determines the future, the destiny of us all. He is a man who believed that all of us must be completely convinced, and this conviction must inform everything we do, that we have to be ethical, we have to be morally upright, and he was passionate about that. And that's why, Madam Speaker, as I finish, when we members of the Parliamentary Forum on Ethics and Integrity sought to have a national conference, and I pray that we do so this year, Professor Mutebile gave us a handsome sum of money in support of that cause. How I wish that this nation embraces the truth that without ethics and morality informing our ways of life, we are going to be in deep trouble. Professor Mutebile was that unique man, the finest of a kind, Madam Speaker, that we all should be emulating, and a challenge, I may say, last but not least, Madam.
Tom, Honorable Tom. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Right Honorable Deputy Speaker. Madam Speaker, I support the motion as moved by the Right Honorable Prime Minister. We people from Toro are saddened by this death of Professor Emmanuel Mutebile Hapui. We are really saddened, and we extend our condolences to the people of Kigezi, the family, and Amoti Betty, the wife, because he marries from our place. And the Minister of State here for local government is one of the mothers-in-law. So we are really saddened. The point number 2, Madam Speaker, I represent, and many of us here represent, rural constituencies. Professor Mutebile knew our country very well. He knew the problem of a rural member of parliament. He knew the problem at sub-county level. So much so that if you put in a request for a laboratory equipment, for a computer, for a lab, construction of a rural primary, etc., he would respond, not immediately, but shortly. Thank you. As long as that application has been routed properly, the response would come and assistance would be extended. I thank you, Right Honorable.
Thank you, Rusoke. Honorable Rusoke. Then I'll come back this side. Members, this is a two-sided house.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
2 minutes.
Yes, my condolences to His Excellency the President of Uganda as a personal friend to the late and leader of the nation that has lost such a mighty man. My condolences to my daughters Amoti, Prof.Mutebile, Akiki, Mkiara Byabazaire. Yeah, I had to turn to them. They were hearing. My brothers and sisters from Toro Kingdom, we give our condolences to Our Majesty the King, Oyo Nyimba Kabamba Iguru, because our in-law had respect for our kingdom and support. It's very rare that a human being can have very many talents for all the people across the nation to accept. And here we are, mourning an intelligent man, a God-fearing man, a generous man, a non-corrupt man, a down-to-earth in-law, a very, very high moral uprighted man, hardworking, even when his body turned weak, would accept to be supported physically to continue working. I know this is the only way to the Lord. Amoti, Betty, you accepted the Lord as your personal savior. You've been a very good preacher and mentor. I know you are going to stand firm in the Lord. And it's impossible that Emmanuel can hear all this. But if it were possible, he's a person who would have said, miss me, but let me go. May the Almighty Lord reward you and rest your soul in eternal peace. Thank you, Right Honorable.
Chairman Renzori. He's an in-law.
Yes. Right Honorable Speaker, I support the motion by the Prime Minister. And as an in-law, I'm saddened and grieving with my sister, Amoti. Be firm. You have done a great job for this statesman who has served this nation tirelessly. He's a true Pan-Africanist and has been supporting the Pan-African cause in this country and beyond the continent. He was not a tribalist. It would be terrible for people to own the late Mutebile as a tribe. He was a true African man and an internationalist and serving the universe to lift the economy of this country. No wonder the president has had all this confidence in him because of his character, because of his commitment and serving above self. We know he has done his role. It would be very important for the younger generation to learn from him. When they are talking about corruption, you know, this is an evil that has really engulfed us. Now, losing people of that stature without documenting them and learning from them would be a disservice to this nation. I hope that we really write, this government should put an effort to write about the works of Professor Mutebile, such that the younger generation can learn from him.
The OB Baba.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I was in the campaign team of Professor Mutebile when he stood as a guild president in 1971. That is when Professor Mutebile cut his teeth. That's when he grew his boldness and outright, forthright decisiveness in life. He was competing against Eli Karuhanga. That campaign was like Muhammad Ali fighting Fraser in Kinshasa. Bomaye, Bomaye. Mutebile stung Eli Karuhanga all over until we won those elections. Congratulations, my brother. That war you started, you never let it down until your last day, which we are now celebrating. Thank you for that courage. Actually, you are the only courageous Mukiga I know who can follow through, his threats. Forget about Bariomusi, forget about Ndugu or Japan, but Mutebile was very courageous. Madam Speaker, 2 more points. One, this man was a national patriot. With his qualifications, with his international connections, Mutebile could have worked outside. And forget about you miserable Ugandans. But this stood with us through thick and thin until his death. Secondly, many of you are highly qualified, very skilled, but you sit on your knowledge. You never apply it. But this man used his talents. The only way Ugandans will remember him is when he ended shortages, when he ended Kiwanda, when he ended Kitanda beer. That's the economics Mutebile addressed, and now we float in a lot of abundance. Rest in peace, my brother. Well done.
Thank you, thank you. Other members, thank you so much. It is unfortunate we no longer have Bachiga. Press affairs. Then Lucy, Elijah.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I rise to second this motion brought by the Right Honorable Prime Minister as amended by the Commissioner to pay tribute to this gallant son of Uganda, who today has gone back to be with our ancestors. A great man, a man to whom we owe a lot, and a man that the all of Uganda and all successive regimes in Uganda since 1980 found only one point of agreement, and that was in the fact that Mutebile is a great man, and that is why he worked for Binaisa, he worked for Lule, he worked for Obote, and he worked for His Excellency Museveni. They all recognized the talent that this man had, the brilliance that he had as an economist, and we all saw it in the fact that in the last 20 years, our economy has consistently and steadily grown by 6%, which is the 11th fastest growing in the whole world. and the fourth fastest growing in Africa. I therefore believe that this man is deserving not only of the tribute that is being paid to him here today, but if it was up to me, I would pay even more tribute to him by dedicating one of our banknotes to him so that we know him and see him as most countries do to their great men and women. I am glad that this House is considering taking care of his family. I think it is a good message to all civil servants that if you are honest,
Can you finish that statement?
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. It is my belief that by supporting the motion for this House to recognize the contributions of the late governor by providing for his family, we do send a message to every civil servant in this country that if you are upright, if you serve your country diligently and well, we will take care of you when you are gone. I therefore support that motion and hope that we will do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tessa Fayas.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Riam, you will speak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I rise to support the motion that was moved by our Right Honorable Prime Minister on behalf of the people of Amuru, behalf of the Catholic chaplaincy in Parliament here, and on my own behalf. Allow me to join the rest of Ugandans in celebrating the life of our father, Professor Mutebile. Madam Speaker, allow me just to point out something which is very significant in my life as a result of my interaction with the late. I was privileged to be one of those lucky ones to have lunch in the office of the professor in Bank of Uganda. This was for me a privilege. We went to Bank of Uganda in 2019 when the Archdiocese of Gulu was supposed to animate Uganda Matters Day. We started with Mass with the staff of the Bank of Uganda, and to my surprise, the professor came and sat quietly and patiently during Mass. And for me, that spoke volumes. In his weakness, he came when the Archbishop of Gulu, John Baptist Odama, was there. He sat until the Mass was done. Then afterwards, he invited us for lunch in his office, a private lunch, to which I was actually honored to sit next to him. And I will forever hold that memory.
We are running out of time. Members, remember we have a sitting in the afternoon. We have a normal sitting. And I'm requesting members, if you've not spoken now, we know you all feel for the late professor. You will speak in the next session. Kindly. I know much will respect that. Thank you.
Right Honorable Deputy Speaker of Parliament, I stand here to support the motion paying tribute to my dear brother, the fallen Emmanuel Mutebile. Honorable Prime Minister, I came and my first contact with Mutebile was when he was working as a personal assistant in the office of former President Binaisa. I met him in the corridors of government, and he was introduced to me by my late father. But at that time, he meant nothing, because my father just introduced him as an official in government and a personal assistant to President Binaisa. Honorable Speaker, in 1993, when my late father was returning to Uganda, he told me that as I plan to come to Uganda, return to Uganda myself, having lived in the UK for over 20 years. He told me, my son, he gave me the names of leaders whom I should meet in the Acholi sub-region, but also told me, please make efforts to meet the following, and they'll help you a long way in your life. He mentioned the name of a Mzee Batuma, whom I didn't know. He mentioned the one Rugunda, which I knew. He mentioned the Mama Mbabazi, Amos Nzei, and Mutebile. When I returned to Uganda in 2000, my first visit was to see Mr. Mutebile. And I told him I was going to stand as a member of parliament for Chua County. I needed his support. He told me he could not support me, but he told me, go and see one Amos Nzei. Right Honorable Distinguished Speaker, the rest is history. I became closer and closer to Mutebile as I was in government, and I came to love this man for his honesty, professional, and his style of work. Later on, by the grace of God, as God has had miracles, my wife joined the Bank of Uganda and worked through the ranks of Bank of Uganda to become the executive director in Bank of Uganda, and for the last several years, has been working in the office of the governor as a director in his bank. We have come closer and closer to the Mutebile family, and I'd like to thank Mutebile for giving my wife an opportunity and our family an opportunity to work closely with him. If there's anything I've learned and I wish in this world, and which I do every day in my life, is to be as honest and do everything to be honest, transparent, and not touch anything in government so that I can also be remembered as Mutebile. Madam Speaker, I hope when I die one day, when I'm 90 or so, not soon, but many years, I support the motion that the late Honorable Mutebile's family should be supported and with the motion that was put here, so that lessons can go out for being honesty, being transparent, and emulating the life of Mutebile. And I hope the same also will be remembered when I die, so that my family can also be given the same courtesies as it is here. May the good God put the spirit of Mutebile where it deserves. May the angels welcome his spirit that goes up in heaven. And may our ancestors, the spirit of my ancestors who are in heaven, receive him as well. I thank you.
Elijah Itungo. Honorable William, you've become a speaker. You're giving somebody.
Yeah, he gave information.
Elijah Itungo.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I stand here to support the motion moved by the Right Honorable Prime Minister and seconded by the Leader of Opposition and as amended by Honorable Segona. Right Honorable Speaker, allow me to send my sympathies to the family of the late Professor Mutebile, the people of Kigesi, people of Bank of Uganda, and the country at large. Madam Speaker, I would have spoken a lot for more time if we were to be given time, given the experiences that we had with the late Anda Kosase. But because of time, I'll limit myself to a few things. One, which has already been stated here, the reforms in our economy. Yesterday at the vigil, listening to Dugu Rugunda, when he told us when they had just come from the bush, Dr. Mutebile tried to advise them economically, but they were adamant to his economic ideas until finally they were able to listen and understand, and this economy improved. Thanks to Dr. Mutebile. And that's why, for a person who helped to revive the economy of this country, where everybody today is proud, should really be appreciated through his family, given the motion we have given here, that the welfare of the family be taken care of by the government of this country. Madam Speaker, he was a man of God. He loved church, his contribution in All Saints Church. And not only that, and beyond, my OB, Honorable Mutima has just stated here, the people of Kasilo, Archdeaconry, did write to him requesting for assistance. He did not hesitate to help that church in its construction. What a kind person in the names of Professor Mutebile. Personally, in 2011, Dr. Mutebile called me to his office. But as I entered his office, we had lunch and said, my brother, my son, I love the way you conduct yourself. I love the way you debate. I'm going to contribute for your elections. What a personal contribution he made to me personally. No wonder I'm still here. I learned a lot from him. Being an economist like him, I really appreciate it. When he would go for the World Bank meetings, and this is where I want to appreciate Mama Betty. One time they again invited me to their apartment in Washington for luncheon and to discuss the issues regarding the economy, the debt burden of this country. Thanks be to God that he was able to help us. During the times of Kosase, when the president appointed us Honorable Speaker, you, me, Honorable Abdu Katuntu, the IGG, Mr. Makanizi, and the governor, to dig into the issues that were affecting the Bank of Uganda. Dr. Mutebile said, no, I'll be a conflicted person. I will appear as a witness. Because there are people who did not believe in what he was doing. But when he appeared before that select committee, when he gave the answers, we're all convinced that he was taking the right thing. He was a straightforward man, and we thank God that Bank of Uganda stabilized. And we also want to thank the person the president appointed as his deputy to help him when he was not well. Thank you so much for mentoring that gentleman in that office.
Thank you.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. May his soul rest in eternal peace.
Thank you, Elijah. When you talk about inspiration, Professor Mutebile inspired us in banking. He ordered for our promotion, me and Mariam Naigaga, when we were in Centenary. He just said, have these girls promoted. And we were. He has impacted in everybody's life. Itongo, Taewa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. I also want to support the motion about the great economist. Madam Speaker and colleagues, I want to thank God for having Professor Mutebile as a Mchiga, and as my colleague said, a Mchiga who was courageous. But also want to thank God for having given Mutebile a chance to go to education system and go to school, and he became a professor. This professor here was a professor of excellence. And Madam Speaker, the professor had a dream of excellence. He had visited Makerere University, as you have heard the testimonies, where he had experience as a good president. And Makerere had located land to build a center of excellence in the names of Tumsime Mutebile Center for Excellence. This gentleman had promised to use his name and contribute and have that Center for Excellence. The information from Makerere, Madam Speaker, which I will at an appropriate time provide the Parliament, that once he had started, but he had not done much. But he had gotten a commitment from the Minister of Finance that the government will support his project. So, Madam Speaker, in remembrance of his contribution and whatever has been said about this gentleman, I urge that we support his dream, so that his dream can come true, and we have a center of excellence at Makerere University where everybody will enjoy that is excellence. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Musasisi, follow up that issue on Center for Excellency, the Mutebile Center of Excellency, and then report back to the House.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I undertake to follow up and report back to the House soon.
Thank you. Honorable Taewa.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Of course, when you're in such a situation, and then Honorable Baba again says there is no, serious Muchiga, I just want to assure the House that Honorable Baba likes joking with us, Wachiga. We are his best friends. But when you look up there, and then you see here, you know the Wachiga mini business. And there. So, Right Honorable Speaker, we are here to talk about a man who dedicated all his life to service of God, service of his country, and the service of humanity. I had never seen Professor Mutebile putting on a jacket without a logo of Rotary. Whatever he was doing, humanity was always at the epicenter of his decisions. The Rotary fraternity is even represented among the people here. We've lost a very, very big pillar, and we are sure God has prepared a very, very good resting place for him. Right Honorable Speaker, the late governor was an embodiment of unity. As you all know, Kigezi, we have our own issues. Someone might say, this man from Mitoma. No, I was born in Rwanda. So I'm a Muchiga from Rwanda. I was just sent to the diaspora. We are the Muchiga in diaspora. Right Honorable, whereas we had issues in Kigezi, the Honorable Mutebile had never associated himself with politics of identity. He always focused on politics of interests and legitimacy for the good of the people. You couldn't go to Mutebile to say, support me, I'm Anglican, or support me, I'm Catholic. You only could go to him to say, support me, I'm a Ugandan, and I'm going to work for Uganda. And Right Honorable Speaker, when we were with you in Rubaga at the consecration of Archbishop Semogeri, he also made it very clear that Honorable Mutebile governor was always supporting all people despite their identity. So that's very, very, very important. We have very many divisive figures whom we come here and we romance on words, but for Mutebile, you know what you're talking about is what is right. Right Honorable, he was a true definition of a Muchiga, a true one. Bold, he couldn't mince his words. And last night when we were having a vigil at home, Mama Betty really gave a true picture of who the governor was. But for us, the young generation, we've lost a role model. We are lucky we still have the Ndugus, we still have all these important people here modeling us. But I urge my fellow young people, the struggles of rationing sugar, of rationing salt.
1 minute.
Right Honorable, who never faced those hard times, who are enjoying the beauty of this country, who are enjoying the peace, all work for ensuring that we maintain peace, we maintain an economy, we build on the economy which governor sacrificed for, so that our country can be better for posterity. I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and may the soul of our governor rest in eternal peace.
Thank you, Government Chief Whip. We have a condolence message from the National Resistance Movement. Condolence message, which is signed by Alhaji Moses Chigongo, the National Vice Chairperson. It reads with profound sorrow. I have learned the death of a gallant, diligent, committed, down-to-earth Ugandan, Professor Emmanuel Mutebile, the governor of Bank of Uganda, and the chairman, board of directors of Bank of Uganda. As an economist and a banker, Professor Mutebile worked hard to restore the economic crisis that befell our country during the past regimes, and in the struggle that brought the democratic governance in Uganda. He has done our country proud till the day he breathed his last. As I mourn the fallen comrade in the struggle, I appeal to the fellow Ugandans, especially those in the banking sector, to uphold the good works of Professor Mutebile for the good of our country. I condole with the bereaved family and pray that the Almighty God helps you to recover from the shock of death of your beloved one. May his soul rest in eternal peace. That is a message from NRM. Members, we have an amendment to the motion. Amendment 3 to be captured in the Hansard, which reads, Parliament urges the government to follow up on the undertaking that has been taken by government on matters regarding the welfare of the late Professor Mutebile's family, and to inform Parliament in the subsequent sittings. That is the Amendment 3. I now put a question to the motion that has been moved by the Right Honorable Prime Minister with amendment that this House pays a glowing tribute to the late Emmanuel Tumusiime Mutebile for the distinguished service to this nation. Those in favor say, and to the contrary, nay. The ayes have it. Honorable members, I want to thank you so much, so much for creating time to come to pay tribute to our gallant son, father, and brother. And as the Parliament of Uganda, we tender our sincere sympathies to the family, to Bank of Uganda, to the whole country for the loss of the gallant son. And we'll always be there for the family, as we've been always with the family. And as Bank of Uganda, keep our bank well. May the good Lord rest Emmanuel in eternal peace. The House is adjourned to 2.